Welcome, everybody. We do have a quorum present. I first want to say we normally meet on the third Tuesday of the month. That would have been last week. I decided it wasn't possible. It didn't appear that we would have a quorum for that meeting. So I appreciate everybody adjusting their schedules, particularly on a beautiful night like this in June to meet with us. So this is a meeting of the Great Barrington Affordable Housing Trust Fund, June 25th, 2024, 6:30 p.m. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and Governor Healy's March 29th revised order extending remote participation by all members in a meeting of a public body. This meeting of the Great Barrington Affordable Housing Trust will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen to the meeting may do so by consulting the instructions on the top of the agenda. No in-person attendance of members will be permitted. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time, very technological means. All votes will be roll call. We have 5 members present. I'm just going to list them for the record as they appear on my screen. Ananda Timpain, Garfield Reed, Peter Most, and Bill Cook are here. If others join, I will make a note of that. Yeah, let me see. I distributed meeting minutes for the May meeting just yesterday. You haven't had a chance to look at them. I understand. If you have, can we act on those? Does anybody have any changes?
I make a motion to approve the May minutes.
I have one minor change, if that's okay.
Okay. Yes.
I'm embarrassed, but on the members absent list, you have Garfield, but you don't have me.
I can certainly make that change, and I'm sure you probably went to a wonderful event or something.
I recall there was something. I can't recall if it was wonderful.
I believe it was another town meeting.
Oh, it was the ZBA meeting. That was wonderful. Yep.
Let me alter my motion that I would like to make the motion with the amendment.
Thank you.
Second from Bill Cook. Any discussion? Hearing none. This is a roll call vote. Ananda?
Aye.
Garfield?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
It is unanimous. Let me just say Christina Curzia has joined us as well and will be joining as a panelist here. Let's see. Ananda, I'm going to make you a co-host tonight. I know Bill already is, but that gives you the privileges of sharing your screen. So I'm sure that we may get into that, and if we don't, okay. Joseph Method is joining us as well. So we have a full complement of our board. At the last meeting, we made a notion that we would so let me back up. We have gone through, and the select board, I believe, has reappointed the members that terms expired in 2024. You likely will get a note, if this applies to you, from Natalie from the select board office asking you to go to town hall and get sworn in.
We did do that last night, yes.
Yes, thank you for that, because I got a note from Natalie today for another board that I'm on. We talked about reorganizing, which is a mandatory thing. Basically, we have two officers, a chair and a vice chair. At the July meeting, we will vote to reappoint or vote for a new person for that, or rotate, or however anybody wants to do it. It's fine with me. Before some of you joined, we were talking about North Plain Road. Habitat is still hoping to break ground. The holdup is with the engineer. The project is out for bid. The documents had to be pulled back because the sewer specification was incorrect and had to be redone. Basically, the system that the town wanted was a new system that they haven't used before, but they were trying to roll out and use as ours as a first trial. And it turned out to be woefully expensive, and more expensive than anything else in the whole project. And it was decided to pull it back and use a conventional sewer system. One that, by the way, the whole rest of the town uses. So, you know.
I also think there, it sounded to me like there was maybe a missing piece in communication and looping Joe Aberdale in, and that it was only once Joe was looped in that the full picture with the sewer became clear. So that just might be useful for us in the future to know, building that collaboration in earlier rather than later.
Well, are you talking about conception of the documents or the engineering of the documents? Because Joe was not, Sean was the DPW at the time, and that preliminary was under his watch.
That makes sense.
We have had numerous complaints from utilities and from constituents, basically, that the engineer has not been responsive and has not provided information in a timely manner. When I've interacted with them, they've been full of excuses. And, you know, everything from my dog died to, you know, I don't have the staff because they're all on vacation, you know, but that's the last, used that excuse last month too.
Why haven't we fired them?
It's a very good
Habitat
question.
fired them.
We have, they don't work for Habitat, they work for the town of Great Barrington. So I just back up a little bit.
Yeah, and who's, like, is this somebody who answers to staff and it's really the purview of staff, or this is somebody who answers to us and it's our purview?
No, we have nothing to do with it. Very little to do with the contract. The contract is administered by the town manager and the assistant town manager. Chris Rembold is the point person on the contract. Basically, we were awarded a $69,000 for engineering, later a $3.2 million contract for infrastructure. In order to receive that grant, the property had to remain owned by the town of Great Barrington. Eventually, it's going to be turned over to the HOA that will own the property, except for the road, which will be town of Great Barrington property. So in order to award that grant, the town of Great Barrington had to put that out for bid. So that's why Habitat has very little leverage over this engineer. I talked to Chris about weekly on this. They're still optimistic.
I'm not optimistic. I think we should fire them and
I mean, I don't think we
reach a
can.
contract.
Is it possible to have a copy of the agreement provided to the members so that we can see if there are any remedies available to us that haven't been considered?
I'm not sure that we were party to the agreement.
We may not be party to the agreement, but the agreement will be governed by open governance law. So of course we can see a copy of it. Anybody can. And I'm sure that Chris would, like, I'm sure we don't have to file a Freedom of Information Act. I'm sure Chris will just share it with us.
The problem is the fees have already been substantially paid. And any new engineer coming in would charge additional fees there. And there is no recovery that I know of. I will,
I think Peter is suggesting that by reviewing the agreement,
yes.
there may be additional information that is useful in how we could move things along. Is that true, Peter?
Yep. And if there is, I would be happy to represent the town on a pro bono basis to let them know that we expect them to fulfill their agreement.
Sounds
So-
good to me.
This engineer has been used by Construct, by Habitat, and virtually many other housing trusts and nonprofits. Construct says they've never had a problem before. We, starting 6 months or a year ago, started talking to the other nonprofits and telling them of our experience. This goes back 18 months, maybe even longer than that, maybe 2 years, that we've had failure to meet deadlines, inadequate communications, failure to progress the documents, incorrect, data.
Is Chris also reporting frustration with this?
Yes.
Can we all agree that past performance is not a guarantee of future results?
Amen.
I think that's a disclaimer somewhere, isn't it?
Me
Anyway,
I mean, it sounds to me like there's no harm in moving forward with the suggestion to ask to review the agreement.
tomorrow morning I will do that. Okay, are we agreed?
I would ask, yeah.
Habitat is beyond frustrated. The building code is changing and we're in that period where they can either use the previous building code or the new building code. And it adds $6,000 or $8,000, mostly in insulation and things like that. Insulation's good, I understand, but it's, there's a point where there's diminishing returns. Habitat has gone ahead and they're going to go ahead and pull building permits under the current building code, hoping that, and building permits can be valid for a year, and then they can be extended. But if they don't have anything started in a year, those building permits are going to be obsolete because they were under the old code.
Let me
They've
ask,
also gone ahead and ordered houses, like modular houses. So the other thing that they're doing is they're scheduling volunteer.
it seems like Fred has frozen. Are
Hmm.
other people seeing that?
Yes,
But at least Bill and I are both co-hosts in case Fred has to log off.
Yes.
Fred,
you're frozen.
yeah, I think he'll have to resolve that. While he resolves that, Bill, do you know the answer to this? In terms of North Plain Road, is there a best case, is there a best case scenario that, in the best case scenario, when would the first down payments be happening for purchasers?
I think we're at least a year out on that.
So,
But I don't know how Habitat has it structured. They may want to do that sooner.
I mean, I'm thinking forward a little bit to starting to talk through budgeting. And it's just crossed my mind that if they have it structured that the down payments happen in an early part of the process, and they could be happening in the next fiscal year, we won't have funds for supporting them.
Right.
Fred's computer crashed and he has deputized me to take over. Anything else on North Plain Road from anybody who has questions? Or I don't have any information. I think Fred has the most information, but we can certainly compile any questions people have.
Well, I like Peter's idea, and I think we should really, I don't know, if Chris has some frustration, maybe we can talk. Well, I guess Fred has been speaking to him, but sounds like, I don't know, somebody needs a kick in the butt, I think.
Sometimes a letter helps, or just even asking for a contract helps.
Yeah. I think it would be good for us to express to Chris our concern as a board. Think that I think that it would be fine to do that over email from Fred or Fred and I, and include in that we'd like to review the agreement.
Yeah.
And start there. Financial reporting is the next. Oh, I guess there was something else I wanted to ask about this. Just mention about this. So related to the sewer, because the sewer system had to be redone, the plans for the sewer system had to be redone, and that held everything up. To my knowledge, we will not be utilizing Mass Works grant funds in this fiscal year, unless there's some small amount in June related to that. So we'll see that as we move to look at financial reporting.
Yeah.
Any other comments about North Plain Road before we move to finances?
Well, I can remember a meeting not so long ago that the people in Hoosier Towns were getting a little upset. So I just want to make sure we can keep them, I don't want to say at bay, but in the loop, maybe, so they're aware. I do remember them getting quite upset, and Jim was quite upset that nothing has happened, and the amount of money spent, and will it really be adequate now? And so I just want to make sure we can.
Can you say more about the question, will it be adequate now?
Meaning, will that amount of monies, when they finally get started with this 3.25, will it be enough? Will we need to ask for more? Which seems to make some people.
From the Mass Works grant.
Right.
We have fixed price contracts.
Yeah, the Mass Works grant is for it's for the road and the sewage, but it's it's separate from the housing component.
Do we need, no, I'm just asking because I mean, sometimes I hear stuff that maybe you won't hear because of being in the selectmen's meeting, but does it behoove us to speak with the people in the town or not? I don't mind if it doesn't, we won't if we don't need to, but I just want to.
I don't think we need to do anything in advance. I think if something blows up, we can talk, but so far it's not actually blown up. So
Except for Jim.
We need to stir up anything.
No, I get it, but Jim was pretty exercised.
Yeah, we're still on track, more or less.
Okay.
All right, Fred, I think I have you on as a panelist now.
You do.
We tell Fred about the votes we took in his absence.
We're spending all the money on something else.
My computer's 7 years old and I just use it for word processing, but it still hasn't come back yet. So I'm on my phone.
Yeah, I mean, Garfield, I think to your point, the best answers would really come from Chris around that. And so it might not be a bad idea for us to ask Chris if there's a future meeting he can come and we can have a further discussion about the contract, and any questions like this could come up in a public forum. Housatonic residents could ask questions directly. So I'm wondering if that makes sense. Fred, if we see if we can, what we talked about was communicating with Chris kind of on behalf of the whole of the Affordable Housing Trust, expressing our concern about the engineer and the pace and requesting the agreement to review. And what I'm suggesting now is that we ask Chris if he's available for our July meeting in order to get an update directly from him and for some of the questions that Garfield is fielding to be able to put them into a public forum.
Okay,
Maybe we should request the engineer come along.
Mm.
Maybe we should demand that.
I'm fine with that if that's folks want to do.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Let's tell Chris that we want the engineer to come and explain why he's misbehaved.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think we have the right to know that.
All right, so that's the plan for July is see if we can get both of them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna flag that I imagine it will be tricky with vacations.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll luck out and it will all align. Let me share. So this is our most recent, and I'll just futz around on my screen a little bit so you can see. This is our most recent financial report for this fiscal year. It's not different than what we looked at in April. I'll receive an updated, this, just to orient you a little bit, Peter, this second tab is something that Chris maintains, and he sends me an updated one and I integrate it into our tracking document. So I'll get an updated town sources and expenses from Chris at the end of the month, and I'll close out this quarter and generate the CPC report for the end of the FY24 fiscal year from that with Chris. The only thing I think that doesn't appear on here is this. Oh no, it is accounted for, this $200 payment to Andy for working on the report with me. This number over here is what we will have come July 1 when we get FY25 funding made available to us. So I did also give us a mock-up for our budget discussion of FY25, and when we're ready, I'll move to that. But for now, if anybody has any questions or.
I'm sorry, I'm on my phone. Are you referring to the 159, 946, 96?
The estimate for the for what we'll have starting July 1 is 179, 900.
Plus 23, got it.
Yeah.
So,
Does that mean that everything that was budgeted in the prior fiscal year has been already utilized and is therefore no longer available? For instance, the
No,
pilot
yeah,
program.
good question. So you can see over here in, let me see, I'll make this bright blue. This is what we'll come out with a balance at the end of the month, so 156. That includes we've allocated 155,000 to the ADU pilot program. This is another area. This is not an engineer's fault. This is the lawyer's fault. where for 6 months we've been sitting on this program, unable to move it forward because town council would like to make some light changes to the document we created. And that has not moved forward at all in 6 months. So that money is allocated unspent, but it's allocated and accounted for. And then that leaves us with the 156.
So similar to the question about the engineer, is there something we can do to motivate town council to do what apparently hasn't been done for 6 months?
Yeah, I think I was coming to this meeting thinking about that it felt like it was time to, at the very least, be sending a letter to Mark and Chris. I'm open to suggestion if I think it would be more effective to be communicating directly with town council. It's
May I
just
ask you-
like it's at the bottom of the pile and it's clear that nobody's moving it up, and it's a fairly small task.
As the new member on the committee or what have you, I apologize for questions everybody knows the answer to. Is this project billed directly to town council's law firm, or is town council on a retainer and gets paid not directly pertaining to this project?
That I do not know. I don't know the structure of how that works for the town.
I believe they're just doing it as part of the retainer, but I'm not absolutely certain about that.
And then
I don't think this is like bonus money for them.
right. So in the past, when something has lingered, has there been a way to get council to focus on something not important to council, but important to others?
So my understanding is that this may not be the first time something has gotten stuck on the bottom of a pile. In my time on the Affordable Housing Trust, and Bill and Fred and Garfield, you could speak further back, we haven't had stuff in front of town council. But when I've had some other conversations to try to move it along, and my impression from those conversations is that things do get stuck at the bottom of the pile, and that it can make a difference if Mark gives it a push. The first time we asked any questions on this project of town council was actually in September. It's been since January, or it was January, I believe, that we voted on this. So I think it's been since January that they've had the full final draft we approved. And Chris was able to get them to review it eventually, and the answer was that they wanted to make some edits. It's not a massive document, and I cannot imagine the edits are much. So it is really ridiculous, and it's impacting our ability to do our work, and it's impacting taxpayers' ability to have access to funds for affordable housing.
And Nanda, do you think maybe there's a possibility that all the stuff that had come up, i.e. the teacher suing for $1 million, or the prop shops and stuff, well, that's kind of past now, so maybe we can sneak in with our questions now, because
there's another lawsuit on the table since May. So, I think the reality is, I think that there is a larger reality that our town is working with finite human resources, whether it's at the town level or with contractors, and still work has to get done. And this is minor. This is minor. This is not even going to take a half hour of somebody's time. There's no way this is taking more than that.
So did you suggest that you and Fred would send a message to Chris or Mark asking them to move this along?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. What I would like to do is move it just move it beyond us making that request as chair and vice chair to that the trust is asking for action on this.
Okay.
If that is,
Is that, can we make a motion? Can we make a motion on that?
I would love
Yep.
to.
If this is the time to do it, I'd like to make a motion that the town interact and contact town council to ask town council to review and approve a document pending since January regarding the ADU pilot program.
Second,
All in favor, roll call, Fred,
Aye.
Peter.
Wait,
Aye.
hold on.
Oh, you want to
the
discuss?
no, it's just the motion is like, you guys are gonna draft a letter, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
the motion is for there to be communication on behalf of the trust as a whole.
Yes. So
Peter,
Aye.
Garfield,
aye.
Christina,
Aye.
and Ananda, I.
And Bill, I.
Oh, I didn't, I have a ribbon up and I missed you, Bill. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Anything else related to FY24?
I apologize. I do have one last question. There's a deficit of
okay.
23,500 on the down payment loan program.
So basically what that means is that we budgeted to, when we initially budgeted at the start of the year, we anticipated making 2 loans. But over the course of the year, seeing the balance in other areas, we decided to make 3.
I see. So those dollars will come out of the funds that are arriving on July 1.
No, they'll just come out of a different line that we didn't spend down in FY24.
Oh, okay. Got it.
We had budgeted, I believe, $50,000 for the rental assistance program, and we did not tap into that. They had residual funds and still do from the fiscal 23 grant that we gave them.
And that is in this line here. And so they had, as of April 17th, they had a balance on that grant of 18,000. So I'm not anticipating them coming to us in the near future. And that's Construct, collaborate with Construct on the emergency rental assistance.
Right.
The only other thing that might be useful to review for you, Peter, while we're here is right now we have, and this is very small. So right now we have 2 sources of funding, of town funding. One are general funds that have been allocated in a line item in the town budget. And the other are CPA funds that are allocated through the CPC process.
Right.
The CPA funds have some special powers. And I always turn it over to Bill to describe the special powers because I forget the correct chapter. Are you muted?
Yeah, I was muted. Sorry. Basically allows us to purchase property without going through the 30B process for putting things out to bid and all that, which makes it impossible to buy property.
So we, with that in mind, we've talked about having as a general rule, spending down general funds and reserving CPA funds so that we have the highest flexibility should a property opportunity come up.
Makes sense.
And I did send this out so you can look at it at your convenience, but it really is an entire history of every expense to date on this second tab. So I'll stop sharing this and
Thank you for putting that together, however.
Yeah. Fred, you have rental assistance report and discussion on the agenda. Was there further conversation you wanted to have at this point?
I was thinking that we hadn't fully discussed it previously on the first quarter program. And I wanted to bring the members up to date on what the, what's involved with that program. You know, we have only 3 or 4 programs that we manage. The down payment, the assistance, the rental assistance. We will have the ADU program, the development with the Habitat houses. And that's about where we distribute our money. We have in the past also
Okay.
awarded RFP grants, one to a private developer and one to CDC. But that open RFP will expire this week. And I think we agreed not to renew it at this time.
We didn't discuss that, to my knowledge.
Well,
I mean, it makes sense to discuss that, but I don't recall having made that decision.
I believe it might have been a casual comment rather than a discussion. So perhaps it is relevant to talk about that.
Yeah.
Under the rubric of financial planning going forward. I think the practical item is we don't have the money to make a significant contribution. In practice, an award for a RFP would have to be at least $75,000 per apartment to influence the market. Most likely the grant's going to be $100,000 to $150,000. We simply don't have the money. If we did that with one award, we would be hamstrung for the rest of the year. So my recommendation is when we created the RFP, we have an open RFP. It's listed on the town website as available. As I said, we've made one grant under this program. We had one other application for Thornwood, but declined that application. When we wrote it, it was set to be a rolling open invitation until the last day of June 2024. So it expires next week. And my recommendation is that we not renew it. At the very least, if we were to renew it, we need to talk about the rubric and the and Andy, who had made some very compelling arguments about sorry, I'm trying to find a stand for my phone. You'd made some very compelling arguments about redoing the rubric if we had an open RFP. And so I don't think we have the funds. I think that we should, at this time, let it expire and not renew it. If we do nothing, it's going to expire.
Is there any harm in renewing it and then just being clear that that will be less likely to approve projects?
Yes.
I think it leaves us up to, at the very least, criticism and maybe, I'm not sure that it will, our experience is that I'm not sure that we have leveraged the funds in the best means possible by doing an RFP.
That's just a critique of our deliberation. That just means that we're not doing.
No, I don't think.
I think it's fundamental with the project. The project is $150,000 for 1 or 2 apartments, and we don't have $150,000.
Wait, are we talking about a specific project?
No, what Fred is saying is that we only have 180,000
Yeah,
available to us for the coming fiscal year.
Right.
And any viable project would be minimum for, for 2 units would be minimum 150 based on what we've seen before CPA and to the RFP, the open RFP this year. And so I think what Fred is saying is
well,
it's not a good way to leverage our limited resources in the coming fiscal year to reopen the RFP.
but what if someone came with the mythical $20,000 and now like $30,000, $40,000 pad for a tiny house or something?
Well, they could go through the ADU pilot.
Well, that's fair. I mean, they can't right now because it's not approved. But I
Yeah,
mean,
So
yeah,
that's, yeah.
no, I'm just saying, that there's always like people can ask for. I don't think did we say that there's an upper or lower limit on how much people can ask for in the RFP?
I don't
process?
think so.
I just
No,
don't. I just.
I think
I
that
just-
there's a pretty consistent thing, like the debate in the town is really about what you can get for 150. We're not seeing anything under that, whether it's coming before us or coming before the CPC.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just saying. Okay, I think that the reason why we did the whole RFP process to begin with is that before we were getting proposals that were on an ad hoc basis, that were really sort of being presented by the chair based on a conversation that was had. And I thought that we just basically said, let's do an RFP to make it clear that it's not just the people that we've already had contacts with, like CPC or Habitat or whoever, that should be applying for this, but anyone out there, like anyone in the whole world of people applying for grants should know to come to us. So I would think that we would want to keep it open because we always have the right of refusal if we have a rubric, but like I haven't looked at it in a while, but like don't we have like basically like affordability as a like do
Well,
we need to add something like based on us having money or something? Just saying,
no,
like,
we have that. Excuse me, Joe. I think the rubric is very weak. Based on what we spent a lot of time on the ADU rubric, and it's much stronger. And I would recommend that if we are going to reissue this, that we review the rubric before we do that. Because right now we don't have those criteria to reject somebody. We don't have those kinds of things. The rubric gives us the outline of how we're going to review the process. Without that, you get into this complaining thing that, you're just being arbitrary. And I think that the rubric removes all of that question of arbitrary decision-making.
yeah,
Why don't we let it run out and then review the rubric, and we can always repost it in a month or two.
that seems fine.
Christina,
I guess
or Garfield, do you have anything to you have any thoughts to weigh in on this discussion?
I do think that, but I think you answered that question, is that I would like that some money be available for small projects, what Joseph mentioned, like small, tiny house and stuff. But you said we can access the ADU money if the ADU project is accepted by town, yeah? So.
Yeah. And to be clear, whatever's going on with town council is not about rejecting it's just there's language they wanted to to make specific. So the ADU project will happen. It's just we have to push it.
Recording in progress.
Sorry.
Peter or Garfield, do you have thoughts?
No, I don't. I feel kind of like I've missed a lot, and so I'm feeling a little lost, but I don't have any questions at the moment. But I'm sure I will as soon as we get off the air. But yes, I will have some, I'm sure, but not at the moment.
I like Bill's idea of letting this run out and then considering it again in the future. I like the idea of there being an RFP out there so someone could apply for it, and we always have the basis to consider it. But letting it run makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, what I'd weigh in on is similar to what you brought up, Bill, but maybe giving ourselves a longer period of time to refine the RFP, and at that point decide if we want to reopen it in this fiscal year or not. I think, I think as we're further into the fiscal year and we know what we're doing with our CPC application, like it might make sense to open an RFP in this fiscal year in anticipation of FY26 as well.
Yes, I think that's good.
And maybe we can do what we did with ADU pilot and form a subcommittee that works on the rubric. And I think we had talked about that we really could use the rubric that we developed for the ADU as a baseline and look at where it needs to be modified for the different type of project that would be eligible under the RFP, but that we did a lot of work there to think through our values around what needs to be prioritized with these town funds. Yeah, go ahead, Garfield.
All right, I have some questions. I'm probably the only one who has some hesitancy about the ADU program. Is that where we're putting all our eggs, if you will? And just another question to kind of catch me up. I thought we were going to look or investigate a list of homes that were coming up that we could bid on or perhaps get because they're abandoned. And if we could do something like that, even if we only do one, that's better than none. So that's where I am because I've missed meetings from either being ill or something, other reasons. But I've missed a lot, so I feel like I need to catch up. But those are my concerns, and I also, like I said, I'm probably the only one that's not excited about the ADUs.
Well, that's okay. We don't have to be excited about everything. The ADU pilot is approved and ready to go forward as soon as we get the final version from town council. So that's a done deal, and money is set aside for it. It's structured as a pilot so that we're building in learning. We didn't go into it expecting to get it right the first time. We went into it to design a process that we could learn from, and if we go forward with an ADU program following the pilot, we can make changes as needed. So for FY25, which starts July 1, we have a roughly $180,000 that we will put towards things that aren't the ADU pilot, presumably. So what I wanted to suggest is that we zoom out a little bit and we look at the program allocations that we've been using, which are emergency rental assistance, down payment loan program, the ADU pilot, which is already taken care of, affordable housing development grants, which is the RFP we just talked about, and property acquisition initiatives. And if we just have a general conversation about where we might want to prioritize our limited funds in the coming fiscal year. That would be my suggestion at this point.
Can I say something?
Yes.
I missed some of the last meeting about the possible houses, abandoned houses being available. Can somebody brief me on this? Do we have any plans in purchasing them, or do we have to purchase them, or we can be given by town those properties? And where would the money to fix them? Whatever is the whole idea, can I know a little bit more about that?
Fred?
Yeah, this is kind of my idea.
Mhm.
The idea isn't so much financial in terms of that we would be purchasing houses.
Mhm.
However, it's more becoming a catalyst or a source of information. So there, to my knowledge, the town has not taken any properties for back taxes, so that they do not own surplus real estate. Similar to the house that we did on Grove Street with Habitat.
Mhm.
Nor do I know of any that are eminent for the town to take. The program that you were referring to is more like a catalog. If we can go to the building officials and say which houses have violations, which houses are abandoned, which houses don't have anybody living in them. Are there houses that are substandard and form a Board of Health violations? Are there houses that are significantly in arrears for taxes? And come up with at least an inventory of many of the houses that we know about in Great Barrington, and we can add to it later. What we would then do with the list is the Attorney General's office has a program called a receivership program, and they then designate the ownership stays with the people who own it now. Often under this program, it's somebody of limited income, sometimes a senior, and they have a house that has building code violations within. And a agency designated by the Attorney General comes in, brings the house up to code, brings it all together, takes care of things like back taxes and water bills and things like that. And the state provides us a funding source for this, and the house is put back on the tax rolls up to current standards. Construct has done 2 of these, to my knowledge. Habitat has done 1 or 2. So most of the receivers are private nonprofits involved in the housing agency. There's a house in Housatonic that is boarded and secured, but it has feral cats living in it. We call it the cat house. And that would be a perfect candidate for this. But I understand that the taxes are up to date. Periodically the big old condo up on Berkshire Heights comes up. If anybody's not familiar with that, there was Bill, that's your neck of the woods. You probably know more than I do.
Yeah, it's on West Avenue.
Timeshares.
It was a timeshare. There were like 600 owners, and it's making its way through land court very, very slowly.
And land court takes a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Eventually, the best outcome is that the town of Great Barrington will end up owning that property, which would be a fabulous housing redevelopment.
Especially if they own it before it completely falls down.
So we don't have a project eminent. We are looking at developing an inventory.
And how are you or we are going to go about developing that inventory?
Well,
What
Joseph has
way-
offered to help,
Who?
and Joseph is offered to help, and I will be riding my bicycle around looking at old houses.
Okay, so that that's the way to finding. And there is no any list anywhere that town might have or
The
anything?
town may have a list. It may be a good starting place.
Mhm.
You know, there was a house that just sold on Rossiter that right down from you,
Yes,
you're
across.
probably familiar with.
Yeah, I didn't know it was even on the market. It was sold, I
Well, we
think.
looked at it. It was 139,000,
Yeah.
Wow.
but it was a bit of a wreck.
Yeah, the people, it was very strange. The people lived there, the couple, and then all of a sudden they moved to Pittsfield, and I ran into the guy one time, and I said, "You just moved out?" And he said, "Oh yeah, we moved away from here, and we don't know what we're going to do with the house." Anyway, that was a few months ago, and now it's sold. So,
So
but
they
so
still
I
come up.
So Christina, are you interested in getting involved in working on this list project, Ed and Joe?
looking for obtaining information about abandoned houses, etc.
Yeah.
I just don't know how to go about it. Besides riding a bike around, you know.
Well, the town published a list of houses that were delinquent or properties that were delinquent recently.
Oh, they did? Where is that list?
I'm not sure. I had it at one point.
Are you thinking a time frame is on this? Like when, like if there's a small subcommittee working on this, how frequently would you want to see the subcommittee reporting back to the trust?
Like in the fall. I don't know. I mean, it's really just an idea at this point. It really hasn't gotten off the ground much.
You know, like Magadini's
Put it on a
house.
future agenda that might help it get off the ground. Like, do we want to say that there's a September date, or do you want to make it October?
September and October have in the past been partly dominated by CPC discussions, but that's largely because it's difficult to have those discussions over the summer.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, I mean, I'm mostly just wondering if we can kind of get this moving and come back to the task of talking about financial priorities or budget priorities as we move into July the coming year. Because it sounds like this is a valuable project. There's interest in it, and it's not a project directly linked to our budgeting process. Is that correct?
yeah. The whole idea of this is looking for ways that we can become a catalyst for affordable housing with limited funds.
So let's tentatively say that the subcommittee will report on progress in October.
I think having a deadline is always a good thing.
So let's come back then with that in mind, knowing that that is work that can happen, but doesn't directly tie to our budget for the coming year. Thinking about our budget for the coming year, what do people see as priorities?
There is a potential for some land acquisition. I don't know what the time frame on that is. So
Like $80,000 range potentially.
that was the number that was batted around previously. We may be able to delay part of that payment depending upon how it goes forward. I would like to at the very least, pencil that in as a placeholder, subject to the future, so that we do have the option of going forward with that.
So as we talk, I'll put numbers in, but that doesn't mean we've decided anything. It's just so you all can see.
Hmm.
I think that the rental assistance and down payment loan programs are successful programs. I think that taking the second one, the down payment loan program, if Habitat does move forward, if they do get people in houses, they may be coming to us asking for a down payment loan, 1, 2, 3, whatever, going forward.
Do you see that happening in this, the Habitat part specifically happening in this fiscal year? Given the time frame on things?
One would like to hope so, but
The advantage of it being pushed back a year is that we could include a very specific number of down payment loans in our CPC application tied to North Plain Road. So we could say we could apply for 5 plus one additional one in the community or something.
Right. I have had one mortgage broker suggest that there would be, that she was working with a couple that would come in for another grant. However, that was 2 months ago and I haven't heard, and it's likely that the deal fell through or something.
I think it's a great idea, Amanda, to have that in our application.
I like the idea that for $25,000, we can help somebody get into a house that they may not have been able to afford. And I think that it's a good, I think it also is a program that the community understands and they can support. That the CPA committee understands and they can support. That it will eventually be a revolving fund come out of this.
Yeah,
I like what Fred is saying.
yeah.
Is that
I think Habitat may actually have some information. I mean, a lot of the people that applied to the Grove Street house are now, I think, applying for the North Plain Road homes. And Habitat may know how many of those people are going to need a down payment assistance loan. So
I think the question becomes whether it's in the next fiscal year or the one after.
right. But, we could still ask for the money from
Yeah.
CPC.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is that I think, we should talk with Habitat and confirm this, but I don't see a timeline where North Plain Road is at a point where there's down payments in this coming fiscal year. So that's my thought, is that we budget the down payment loans for FY25 based on just community houses in the community, not the North Plain Road, but that we include in the application for CPC in the fall, which will be for the FY26 fiscal year, a very detailed number of loans that are tied to North Plain Road. And there, do you think it would be useful to talk with Habitat? And if I recall, in the first set of houses is going to be 5. Is that correct, Fred?
For 7.
I think they're up to 7 now. The total is 20, so I think it was 7, 7, and 6 that they're talking about in 3 phases.
Got it. Yeah, so I do think it would be good to know if Habitat sees all of those 7 going to families that would be eligible and need the down payment assistance or not. Because that alone would be a big chunk of the CPA.
Well, all of the houses will qualify based on income. One of the other things that, because we purchased the land with CPA money, it has it's tied to being affordable in perpetuity.
Yes.
So that house, by definition, all of those houses will qualify based on income. Excuse me.
Might I just suggest that we keep an open line of communication with all parties concerned. From what I'm understanding, it sounds like we're really not getting that information, and we really need it, and we should have it. And even we're speaking of the engineers. We should have an open dialogue between the CPC always going and whatever alphabet letters that we need. But I don't know. It sounds like we're not speaking enough to each other.
I mean, I think that it's also compounded, Garfield, by every time the engineer is missing a deadline, things that we knew stop being true. So like 6 months ago, we knew that in FY25 we were going to need down payment loans available for North Plain Road, but deadlines have been missed. So I think that we're on the right track in prioritizing in July, getting the engineer before us and trying to hammer out what's going on there, because we'll keep being in this boat if we don't.
Right. That's why we should be talking. Right. Maybe we should have avoided the boat if we were more vocal.
Yeah.
I don't know.
In terms of budget priorities, I'd like to suggest that we maybe like consider setting aside enough for 2 down payment loans, and then
25 maybe for, I don't know.
Most of the people that are applying for the down payment assistance are going for the full 25,000, right, or close to it.
Yes.
So if you want to do 2, it's 50.
Well, I believe that's what she's added.
Sounds fine.
And that takes up the majority of the money that we have available to us.
in that
The small reserve.
yeah, I mean, that leaves us with that 19 to still allocate. I mean, my thought is that we come back to this in July and vote on something. So this process just gives us a good starting place as a group, and we can think about things. We can think about it each as individuals in between, and then finalize.
Well,
I think, one of my questions around the emergency rental assistance is, we know that in this fiscal year, there was an error, and Construct froze distribution at one point because they didn't realize they still had funds to distribute. So I would like to have a better sense of what the full year of Great Barrington looks like if it doesn't have that kind of artificial freeze, and if we should go up to 30,000.
do you like the revised reporting format?
From Construct?
Yes, from Construct.
I can live with it. It has the information I need. I think it could be simpler, but it has the information I really was looking for that we didn't have before. You can match the data to the specific period and see it cumulatively. And Peter, as we're talking about various things, feel free to reach out to Fred or I over email, and we can send you different documents that have.
And we, you know, come back with a history of these things if you like. The town of Lenox and the town of Great Barrington both have provided money that is administered by Construct for rental assistance grants. The plan program began during the pandemic. It's been very successful. It gives them a source to help people immediately. They also have something called a housing connector or a housing coordinator, a connector, I believe, who helps people, works with landlords, helps people qualify for other programs. It's very successful, in my view, and I'd like to continue it. At one point, we were spending close to $40,000 or $50,000 and making dozens and dozens of grants per year. The average being 2 months for a grant for people who pay their rent. But I believe it's slowed down considerably. I'd like to suggest that we get Jane to come talk with us. She's done that in the past. I'd like to get an update on this program from her at some point.
Yeah. What I would like to do is when we get to the point where they've spent down the current funding they have and we're ready to look at a new grant request, I would at that point like to structure reporting so that there's specific invoice and report dates and specific dates that Jane comes to us and that we determine that in advance. I think that would be helpful.
It looks like she was structuring it quarterly, but that she missed the December deadline. And so for the April 1st deadline, she provided the program that ended in December and the program that ended in March. I think they're breaking it out quarterly at this point.
Would make sense. Anything else on the budget discussion?
Well, I think that part of this discussion will segue into our CPA application.
Yes.
As we go forward. In a lot of ways, I'd like to look at this as a 2-year kind of budget. One that's a little bit more, neither one of them are gelled or set. This isn't money that we're going to spend, more like a roadmap or a plan that how we're going to allocate our funds. And we have the flexibility to move between lines. And when you get to the second year, it becomes even less firm there. I think that at some point, and I don't know what your thoughts are, Ananda, about coming up with a 2-year budget.
I think for the kind of funding that we have, it doesn't make sense to come up with a 2-year budget because on multiple levels, the budget is set annually and we have very little control over that. You know, whether it's getting a line item into the town budget or whether it's going through the CPA process. I think that we've spent the last year stabilizing kind of the 5 program areas, if you count property acquisition as a program or activity. And I think that I feel good about those being kind of our core areas of activity that involve money. And I think that by nature of the fact that we have a very limited budget and we're only awarded $23,000 for this coming fiscal year in new funds, that this year will be a good year to be looking at the low cost, no cost activities that we can do. And balancing that all out kind of into the next fiscal year, I think will be the question, what we have the capacity for as a group of people volunteering time. So that's my thought. Like, I just don't think it's viable to try to budget 2 years out when, you know, this year we got 23,000 from CPC, and every year prior to that was significantly more. Peter, I will add for your benefit that while we only got 23,000, I feel strongly that our advocacy was part of what led to the highest percentage of funds going to affordable housing.
That's good.
It just in direct funds and not going through us.
Right.
Christina, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, apropos the budget and our no money, did we discuss or consider any type of other type of fundraising? Because we really don't have so much to do for the next year because we have so low money. So maybe we could focus on some kind of fundraiser. This is like the most popular area for fundraising, you know, affordable housing. I don't know, like a big concert or whatever.
My 2 cents
Mhm.
is that we have yes, we have a community that is very generous, and we have high capacity for giving as a community. That said, Berkshire County has the highest per capita rate of nonprofits outside of DC in the entire country. It takes a lot of work and a large infrastructure to raise money that's in any significant amount. And I don't see that as a viable pathway forward for us. And then on top of that, the money that we'd be competing for donor dollars with Construct, for example. And I don't see that as a win-win. And I would rather support Construct to be successful in their fundraising endeavors and have that Construct be the vehicle for donor dollars in our community, and focus on being a vehicle for government dollars.
I don't agree with this at all, because I feel that we are losing.
So
Excuse me?
is that I know
I just feel that we using our money in a very different way than Construct, and I like the way we're using the money rather than covering up a little bit here, a little bit there, and then shelters. Shelters are important because I know myself several homeless people. But I do feel that because we using the money in a very different way, we are not really competing with Construct. We're competing for the funds from the community, but we're not competing for the using of it. You know, like we're using it in a different way.
Are there other people who are interested in weighing in on?
Yeah, early on, we decided we were not going to try and fundraise because of Construct and CDC raising money that way.
I don't remember deciding it.
This was way before you were on board. This is early days. I don't think we have the bandwidth to do a fundraiser. It's a huge amount of work.
Okay.
Ananda, can you run that by me again, or us? You said that we have the highest ratio of nonprofits, or what did
per capita ratio of nonprofits. So the highest per capita ratio of nonprofits to people, residents, is in the DC metro area, which makes sense. It's the home of all of the national nonprofits, all the major ones. Berkshire County, as a county as a whole, has the next highest per capita.
That's so funny.
If you want more information about this, the Nonprofit Senate of the Berkshires has quite a bit. Some of those nonprofits they do nothing, like they just exist on paper at this point. They're not all of them are actively fundraising, but a lot are. And
And
And it crosses the spectrum. It's the arts, it's,
presumably, we're not a 501c3 in any event, right? So we
No.
couldn't fundraise such
not
as,
as a 501c3 now.
We are a municipal entity. And we could fundraise if we had the wherewithal and really wanted to, but
I understand people often give to nonprofits for just the feeling of doing right, but also because they like the tax deduction. Presumably giving to us doesn't give somebody that little financial benefit.
it does.
Oh, it does.
Yes.
That's interesting. Okay.
We
Like
are,
giving extra in your taxes to the town, you can deduct that.
Interesting. Okay.
It may be on a different line.
it is 10 to 8 and we end
Good.
at 8. I want to mention one other thing and the budget discussion, and then if people are comfortable, close it. The draft that we were just looking at doesn't include any income from, is it short-term rentals tax bill that got passed?
Right. And I don't know how much that's going to amount to.
We
really.
don't know how much
Right.
that's going to be, but I think that July is a good time to start asking those questions. And when I was having those conversations, we were thinking it might be like 10K. So it's not a lot, but as we have final numbers, they might look a little bit differently than what we were looking at today. Trustee speak time.
I don't really have a long thing to say. It would be nice to somehow talk to CPC about large multifamily projects. So like, in particular, I'm thinking about the other half of the Bentley apartments. Like I don't know how much leverage we have on that, but I don't know. We're always working on the small end of things, and
You mean CDC?
yes, CDC, yeah, yeah, CDC, yeah, just the solution out of the problem. Like we have a hypothesis about ADUs, like little tiny things helping out on the margins, but the real solution is large multifamily. And I know it costs a lot of money, but like to whatever extent we could, I don't know, create advocacy or put pressure or something. It would be interesting to have those conversations.
Any other trustees speak? Media speak? Eileen, do you have anything? And we have no citizens besides Eileen, so.
Next meeting date.
Third Tuesday of July, which is the 16th. Yes, Fred?
Yes.
Yes. If some people,
I won't be here.
I would have difficulty that night, although I maybe could change. Is it, will there be a quorum? Or could it be moved the following week to make sure people could be there?
I'll be in Maine on the 16th, so I definitely won't be here, right?
No Wi-Fi?
Yeah, right. I'm on vacation.
Either works for me.
Yeah.
So where I'm at is I don't mind moving our meetings occasionally. I don't want to go back to the days where they were moving all the time and it was very hard to land anything. So
I wouldn't mind this one time because I've missed a lot, so I would appreciate the one move this time anyway.
And the 16th is the third Tuesday?
The 16th is the third Tuesday. The question is, would it affect attendance negatively if we moved it to the 20th?
I'm fine with the next week.
Looks like Bill is checking. Fred, it looks like you're checking. Joe, you said that would be fine for you. It would be better for Peter.
Yeah, I'm okay.
It's okay for Fred. It's okay for me.
It's fine with me either way.
What date we talking about, please?
23rd, Eileen.
Oh, 23rd would be great.
I was wondering the date.
Oh yeah, it'd be the 23rd.
Okay.
Okay, so we will have our July meeting on the 4th Tuesday instead of the 3rd Tuesday, which will be July 20th.
6:30.
Yes, at 6:30.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
With that, we will adjourn.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night,
Good
everybody.
meeting.
Thank you.